Hey, Sophie here. So today I am going to show you how to make a delicious, all-purpose, vegan, gluten-free bechamel white creamy sauce. Okay, that was a bit of a mouthful, but honestly, I'm really excited to show you how to make this all-purpose sauce. So when I was little, my mum taught me, one of the first things she taught me, she was a cordon bleu cook, was how to make a traditional French bechamel sauce. But of course, you're using a lot of dairy products. This sauce is obviously vegan, so we're not going to do that. And once I got this down, I was so excited because you can use it on so many different things. You can use it in a vegan lasagna, a vegan moussaka, mac and cheese, pasta. It truly is something that anyone who's vegan is going to be so happy if you get this recipe under your belt. So let's get started. Okay, so super simple ingredients for our bechamel sauce. We have got all-purpose gluten-free, I should say, all-purpose flours, 2 tablespoons, 1 tablespoon of tapioca starch. You could use cornstarch. I prefer tapioca myself. If you are using cornstarch, make sure it's organic. I have 4 tablespoons of a vegan spread, vegan butter here. I happen to be using Earth Balance, but you could pick which one you wanted to. I'm using a plant-based milk. You could use any one, but I recommend going for one that has a very neutral flavor for your bechamel sauce. I like this one by Ripple. It's got a lot of protein in it. I also notice it's got vitamin B12 in it. But again, you just pick whichever one you want. This one and soy probably have the most protein, which is a nice added touch to your sauce, your white sauce. And then I'm also going to add some Dijon mustard and optional some nutritional yeast to turn it into a cheesy sauce. Okay, so I'm using my brand new pan here. Very excited about this. It's by 360. It's their new 2-quart saucier, which sounds very fancy. I love the fact that I'm using it makes me feel like a French chef that I'm using a saucier pan. I'll put the details of that underneath the video, along with all the other ingredients that I'm using, such as the Ripple. So just heated that up, and I'm just going to pop in here the vegan butter. Oh my gosh, this reminds me so much of cooking with my mum when I was a child. It was just this recipe, this bechamel recipe. And I remember her saying to me, you know, Sophie, you've got to get this down, because at the time, you know, I grew up eating quite a lot of fish and things like that. So she'd do all these very rich, I have to say, creamy bechamel sauces to pour over fish, which I don't eat now anymore, and actually neither does she, because she's pretty healthy. So we're going to let that melt. You could use an oil instead of your vegan spread or your vegan butter, but the thing about a good vegan spread such as Earth Balance, I'll pop a link for that underneath this video as well, is that it imparts a buttery flavor, which I love. So I'm turning the heat down. You do not, the key here is you do not want this spread to burn, so be very, very careful. Heat nice and low. Now it's melted. I'm essentially making what's called a roux. So I am going to add my 2 tablespoons of my all-purpose gluten-free flour. And I'm also going to add my tapioca starch. In it goes. And then you can see here that this is a roux, R-O-U-X, and that forms the basis for our sauce. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, you can see I've sort of held it off the heat. What's so cool about this pan here is that it has this rounded bottom, which I guess is why it's called a saucier. Oh my gosh, I'm actually getting more and more excited about this pan, because I've honestly, to be honest with you, never used a pan especially for sauce before. Now I'm pouring in some of my plant-based milk here. And I'm gonna start mixing. Now the thing is, when you're making a white sauce, a bechamel sauce, you can't leave it. You gotta stay, as my mum used to say, you gotta stay nursing it the whole time. It's actually super duper therapeutic, and it doesn't take too long, because as you can see here, it begins to really, really quickly thicken. And if I was to walk away even for 30 seconds, it could start burning at the bottom of the pan. Now, you're going to add in total about 1.5 to 2 cups of your plant-based milk, but it's really up to you. You'll know once it starts cooking how thick you want it to be, and if you want a thinner sauce, you can do that. Now, I will say that very often for vegan recipes like a vegan mac and cheese or something like that, or a vegan lasagna, the recipe calls for a cashew sauce. You know, the typical cashew cheesy sauce where you're soaking the cashews and blending them in a blender. But I'm going to say that very often that cashew sauce can get very dry in a mac and cheese or a lasagna, and so this might be a better option for you. Okay, it's thickening up beautifully. Now I'm going to season it, so I'm going to pop in a little bit of salt. I'm not going to tell you how much because it's really up to you for taste. I'm using some Himalayan salt and some pepper. And the salt depends also on what kind of salt you're using. If you're using, iodized table salt, it's going to get salted a little more quickly. And now I'm going to add some Dijon mustard, and I just like the graininess of the mustard in this sauce. I love the taste. It's my kind of secret weapon, is a nice heft of that delicious Dijon mustard, and I like the way it looks as well. If you don't want the little speckles of Dijon mustard, you could just use a plain yellow or a brown mustard as well. That's your choice, up to you. Look, my sauce is looking really, really great now. I'm gonna keep on adding a little bit more of the milk, and then if you wanted to turn it into a cheesy sauce, give it a little bit more of a cheesy flavor for your mac and cheese, or you could make a cauliflower cheese. That's such a British dish, a cauliflower cheese, where you will just steam up some cauliflower and then you'll pour over a creamy sauce and then pop it in the oven. You could put some vegan parmesan on top. Ooh, I think I might have to do that in a different video. So I'm just going to pop in about a tablespoon here of some nutritional yeast. And when I use nutritional yeast, make sure, I always give you this tip, that you use one that is not fortified with folic acid, which is not good for your health. I will put a link to the one that I've used underneath this video. And we are almost there. We're almost done. I'm going to turn up the heat a little bit, let it bubble. It actually cooks more quickly with the gluten-free flour and the tapioca than if you were using a regular all-purpose wheat flour. It just thickens really quickly. So, you're almost ready to go. I like to let it bubble a little bit. I'm just going to put in a little bit more of the milk there. And if you happen to find that you get any lumps in your sauce, nothing to stop you at this point. I can just see a little lump, but it was the nutritional yeast there. There's nothing to stop you getting a whisk. A whisk is a really, really good tool to have handy when you're making a white sauce, particularly if you're adding those extra ingredients such as the nutritional yeast. That was really easy, right? So have a go right now. Just get into your kitchen. It's just a few simple, inexpensive ingredients. And let me know in the comment box below if you have ever tried making a vegan and gluten-free creamy sauce. I'd love to know your experiences. And I will see you next time. If you enjoyed this video and don't want to miss any of my upcoming videos, please subscribe and make sure you click on the bell icon next door to the subscription box so you'll be notified as soon as a video goes live. Also, make sure you turn on the notifications for YouTube on your phone.